What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast on the B Road Network on YouTube about the history, the nostalgia, and more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. Got the homie partner in crime, Tone from IntoTheDome.com. What's good, man?
Hey, look, man, everything is good. And today I have a tropical smoothie. You know what I'm
Tropical
saying? So
smoothie, damn.
we're being health conscious today. Word up.
Oh, I was gonna ask if you had any Patron in there, like at the bottom or something.
Nah, not this time, man. This is straight authentic, nice, good old spinach, my brother.
Yeah, it's crazy too. I wish I didn't do it today, man, because that shit just felt bad. But as far as how I felt after, but like I sometimes like when I'm losing weight, because I'm in the middle of losing like 20 pounds, I was like, all right, so I'm gonna have this smoothie today from this spot called Juice Press. And I've had it before and it's good, but I'm like, that's gonna be my lunch because it's kind of heavy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like after you drink, you're not hungry. But man, for it to be like 90 degrees, you would have
Woo!
thought I had like Thanksgiving dinner, man. I had to hurry up and get back inside of the AC because I was like, yo, I feel like straight sluggish. And all I had was a damn smoothie, but when you 40 something trying to drop some pounds, you trying everything. Like, yo, let me get the smoothie, let me get the workout in the morning, let me do all of that, man. But yo, enough of that for y'all, that little sidebar. But again, you know what I'm saying? This is well, you can also watch this on IntoTheDome.com, but this is That Time in Hip Hop, you know what I'm saying? And we talk the talk, man. And for people who watch this, people who subscribe to this channel, we want you to know that it's very important. Not only that you hit that like button, so we know we're doing the right thing, but also that you comment, you let your voice be known. Because this isn't necessarily just about Tone and Vegas giving their opinions or Tone and Vegas just teaching you, you know what I'm saying? It's like hip hop, it's a community. We want to converse with the hip hop fans, and whether you agree or disagree, or maybe you got some facts that you want to throw in there, throw it in the comment section. And more importantly, make sure you share this podcast with people you know would enjoy this type of hip hop content. Stuff like what happened this week in hip hop, and something really dope happened this week. A lot of dope things happened this week in hip hop throughout history, but something pretty dope that, we definitely need to touch on for the culture, Tone. So what's good with that, man?
Oh yeah, man. This week in hip hop, it dates back to 1984, May the 4th to be exact. The movie Breaking hit the theaters May the 4th, 1984. Let me tell you, for me, I'm in North Carolina. So this was the perfect visual for how hip hop culture, graffiti, breakdancing, et cetera. This was really how we imagined it would be. And then seeing the movie was like, okay, that's how it must look in New York or upstate or wherever the case may be. Because at that time, we had seen like a Treacherous 3 video, or, Curtis Blow basketball, maybe, or early Run DMC video. They didn't show a lot of videos on TV back then.
Yeah.
So it had become popular with VH1, MTV, of course, BET at the time. So Breaking was our hour and a half, 2 hour music video of how hip
Yeah.
hop looks. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure for you guys up in New York, you were living it, but we were seeing it and kind of living it from a distance. So yeah, man, Breaking was a beautiful thing. We saw Turbo and Ozone, and just from my research, I noticed that a documentary came out in like '83, the year before Breaking came out, and it featured Ice-T, it featured Turbo and a few other guys back in the day who had a big name in the early stages of hip hop, and they all ended up being on Breaking, man. So yeah, it was great. Showed out, Turbo, Ozone, the chick Kelly. She was kind of cute, whatever, and had a little storyline in between that, but still gave us a visual, man, of hip hop, man. So it was a good time, kind of early stages, seeing how it was looking in New York and how it was starting to progress on the East Coast, man. So it was, hey, man, beautiful time.
Yeah, man. And looking at the the poster for it, which was all over the subways in New York City. Um, some of the ways they were promoting this thing, it's first of all, it's so 1980s. Like the 1980s was so cheesy when you look back at it. Like you just be like,
Very.
damn. Like in the 80s, you could tell people in the 80s thought they were in the future by the way they dressed because they would wear
Yeah.
all these exotic shits that we don't even wear now. But like the poster had like for the break of your life to describe the movie, which means absolutely nothing
Right.
when you think of the movie itself. Uh, push it to pop it, rock it to lock it, break it to make it. And then it has a little sign down here that says featuring the hottest breakdancers in America, Shaba Do, Boogaloo Shrimp, and the amazing 9-year-old sensation Coco. I forgot about Coco. He's kind of
Right.
dope. I totally forgot about him, man.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to hear you say that about seeing breaking and imagining like, oh, well, that's what the scene must be like watching the movies. Because honestly, like around that time, I was probably like what 7 or 8, and I felt like this was everywhere to me. You know what I'm saying? I felt like
Right.
everybody young was doing this. So like I always tell my homie Ak, shout out to the homie Ak, even though I was a youngin, the park jams that rappers talked about in lyrics for all the years, I was there for a lot of them. Not everyone, not like I was, there when Grandmaster Flash and not like that. But I'm just saying what people know as those park jams where, you have the MCs, you have the DJs, you have the people breakdancing and popping and battling each other. And it was that to watch this movie Breaking in 1984 was fascinating for a kid like myself because hell yeah, I was out there breakdancing with everybody else. And to see like Turbo and Ozone and to looking at them, you know what I'm saying, pop and breakdance was like, being a young cat that played ball that's watching Michael Jordan or that's watching LeBron James and being like, damn, I'm good at what I do, but that's where I need to get. And that's what Ozone Turbo was for me. And even Coco, since he was what, 9 years old in the movie. Damn, where Coco at now though?
Yeah,
I
man.
don't even want to answer that.
Yeah. Who knows? But like you said, it was impressionable for young kids. And for us, just seeing that, we ran outside and we mimicked it. We got the cardboard boxes. We spit on our backs. We did everything that we saw in the movie. And then thinking of 1984, that's a monumental year just in general because you had Breaking that came out in the spring, that Beat Street that came out around summertime, and you had Breaking
Mhm.
2, which it sucked, but it still was Breaking 2, came out in the wintertime. So you had three movies in the same year showcasing the culture of hip hop.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I didn't see the first hip hop movie, which was Wild Style, that came out in 1983. I didn't see that for several more years. So my introductory to hip hop from the visual of a movie was Breaking One. So yeah, man, it was monumental. Like I said, our neighborhood, man, we brought the cardboard boxes out. We tried to do everything we saw. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
before that, it was all about, okay, we have records. Okay, this record is Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel the Message. This record is Egyptian Lover. This message, this record is, just one of those early stage records, man. And we didn't have a visual for that. So yeah, man. And another thing too, real quick, it's funny to think about the budget. The budget was $1.2 million for
Mm.
Breaking, but they made box office $38 million. Now think about
Damn.
that return on investment for that. It became a cult classic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's monumental. That's huge, man.
You know what, man? All this talk about it, I feel like I need to own it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I need to just have it in the stash, right next to all my favorites like Superfly and
Yeah,
yeah, I love Superfly, y'all. It's even on my phone. I'm not playing. I watch Superfly like it just came out. Uh, but Last Dragon, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I need to own that joint. but that kind of explains why we did get Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, because if they made that much money, you know what I'm saying. But you know what it was also? I think, like you said, Breaking came out at the perfect time. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, um, obviously hip hop got even bigger and bigger over the years, but like as far as the street culture, like, you know what I'm saying? Like seeing people having matching jackets and outfits because they was a part of a crew, you know what I'm saying, walking through your school or walking on a block or whatever, and knowing like now you got this movie that kind of represents what you already do. You know what I'm saying? I could see how people just flooded the theaters to go see that. But Electric Boogaloo 2, I mean, or Electric Boogaloo was kind of like, I think the party had been over by the time that came out, and that's really what made it whack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? And I'll be brief on this. A lot of people, a lot of casual fans might not realize that during the breakdance era, real gang members kind of solved issues by challenging each other dancing because a lot of community leaders said, look, man, how can we solve some of our issues without it being violent? Now, a lot of guys agreed to break dance and do things like that in clubs and parties and stuff to kind of keep the violence down that was going on in the inner city and just in the hood in general. So a lot of people don't know that a lot of real killers was out there breakdancing, man, trying to keep the peace. So
Yeah, like I mentioned in another podcast, the book Can't Stop, Won't Stop, and even the Netflix series that really only got one part, the evolution of rap, they touch on that, on those early beginnings in New York, and the truce, and a way to represent your gang was to battle in dancing, to battle in rhyming. They even got footage of dudes, who used to be in gangs straight battling with rhyming. To them it was more like poetry, you know what I'm saying, or just bragging, but it was rap, you know what I'm saying. So I mean, there's a lot of history there. You know what I'm saying? Breaking came out at just a dope time in the 80s, man, to support the culture and help take it in another direction. But we're going to get into our topic for this episode. If you read the title, you already know what it is. If you look back there, it's Eric and Parrish making dollars. You know what I'm saying? E double, P double, whatever you want to call them. I think that's Prodigy also. I don't know. But we're going to talk about when that time in hip hop, when EPMD broke up. And this is a very touchy subject for myself and for Tone because we were huge fans of EPMD. But we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how they broke up, when they broke up. But more importantly, Tone, who was EPMD before this breakup happened?
well, you know what? This is very touchy for me because growing up in the early 80s, Run DMC was my favorite rap group. And then EPMD became my favorite rap group. And then Tribe Called Quest became my final favorite rap group up to this point in 2018. But EPMD is a monumental duo, and probably at that time the second best duo next to Run DMC. By the time their first album, Strictly Business, came out in 1988, I would say they were the best duo of that new golden era, new school.
Yeah,
Run DMC were the gods of the old school, and EPMD were the duo of the new school. And then after them, you would see the Tribes and the Outcasts and things of that nature. But for them, understand something. Let me just for some context. EPMD were dropping gold albums at the same time. Eric B. and Rakim were out. BDP and KRS One was out. Slick Rick was out. Big Daddy Kane was out. LL Cool J was a rap god in his early years already. Public Enemy. So you still NWA, like I said, so you had all these monumental groups dropping classic material that people still study and sample to this day. And speaking of sampling, if anyone care to do the research, EPMD is the most sampled group in hip hop history.
wow,
So,
really?
right. So anyone feel free to do your knowledge on that. Nobody sampled more records the EPM people sample EPMD records. So for them, in the height of their momentum, they broke up vague, and the information and things, theories behind the breakup, what we'll get into in a few minutes, is pretty astounding, man, and very unique actually for hip hop breakup in regards to groups.
Mm. Yeah, man. I think for me, EPMD was my favorite group for a very long time, man. What I liked about them the most, you know what I'm saying, is, and I always say this to people, like if I was born at a different time, like maybe in the not born in the 70s, I was born in the 70s, but like if I was coming up in a time where 70s, like that whole funk parliament, you know what I'm saying, George Clinton era, Ohio players, that would have been my style of music to listen to. But EPMD was kind of like the East Coast version of West Coast sampling.
Yep.
West Coast sampled a lot of funk to really make that gangster rap sound. And EPMD did so also, but it just had a different vibe to it, but it was still the same funk. And I just remember, man, like in 1988, hearing Strictly Business and some of them beats, and I remember like not really hearing the words first because I was just like, God damn, like you're a customer and all of that. Like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
whose record is this? You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until that album came out, Unfinished Business. My brother, who was a DJ at the time, so he had records. That's actually his record from back then. Um, I remember like, asking him, yo, can you make me a tape? And, remember back then, like now you could just like, yo, can you send me the MP3? Boom, boom, done. You know what I'm saying? You can even do it from your phone at this point. But back then, if he needed to make a copy from vinyl onto tape, I mean, the whole album had to play.
Yep.
And you had to make sure that if one side was longer than the other, you had to flip that record, make sure, you might have to flip the tape to record on the B side or whatever. But I remember playing it to death because I was like, damn, this is the same group that came up with that first album with all those dope beats. And now this one got a whole bunch of dope beats and they introduced K Solo. EPMD was just a group that just kept getting better with time. Like you said, they came up under a new school group of rappers like Big Daddy Kane and Rakim, and KRS-One and BDP. And, not only was their style of rapping, new and dope compared to the Yes Yes Y'all era, but the fact that they both was producers
Yep.
kind of just had me like, man, this is just an awesome conglomerate of talent between two good rappers. They produce, and then eventually they got DJ Scratch, man, and they was everything I loved about like hardcore East Coast style hip hop, man. Um, Especially records like So What You Saying, which is, every time I hear that, it kind of brings me back to the nostalgia. Um, but let's talk real quick about not necessarily the breakup, but how they progressed and started to build the hit squad.
It's funny because, before them you had the Juice Crew. You had Marlon Marl, had Roxanne Shante and Master Ace and Craig G and Coogee Rap and Kane and Shan, and so it took a couple of years before someone kind of mimicked that. And EPMD, when putting the hit squad together with Kate Solo and Daz Effect and Redman and Hurricane G, and there's some other groups that they were trying to bring out at some point, but their attention and things kind of stifled them growing to what they could have grew into. But they are kind of the second conglomerate. I always call them like the first Wu Tang. Outside of the Juice Crew, EPMD kind of put together all these MCs, and I feel like the Wu Tang kind of mimicked that to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, they groomed people. Parrot Smith was good at not only producing, but he was the businessman behind the whole EPMD, which
Mm.
ended up being an issue with him and Eric at some point. But he also looked at artist development, business development, how to do tours, how to broker deals and things of that nature. So they started growing. They're actually pioneers in regard to kind of like self-sustaining um their group and trying to do things on their own and not just being a part of these big labels. But before they was on Def Jam, they was on smaller labels, so they had the big vision already. But at the same time, it ended up kind of biting them at some point because of just difference in opinions, money, of course. When it comes to business, each of the albums had business in the title. You know what I'm saying? And it ended up being something that really put them at a level where they had to make a decision. We're going to stay together. We're going to break up. And I do want to say this real quick, and then we can back up. When it comes to breaking up in any genre of music, people break up. Journey broke up. Temptations even broke up before. When it comes to hip hop, Tribe Called Quest broke up before. You know what I'm saying? Like NWA broke up. People break. Brand Nubians, Grand Poopa love Brand Nubians. So this stuff wasn't out of the ordinary. But EPMD, because I think so much stuff was involved so early in the game, and it was kind of rookies to the business, their breakup ended up being something that we had never seen before. So fans couldn't believe that at the height of their career, they broke up, and their breakup could end up being violent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, because like I'm glad you mentioned like the Brand Nubian breakup and like a Tribe Called Quest, and I mean you can even go forward to like Little Brother and stuff like that. I think the difference with EPMD, they were such a team. You know what I'm saying? Even like in their lyrics, the way they would talk, the way they were such like it was like your favorite wrestling tag team, breaking up. You know what I'm saying? Like when Shawn Michaels threw Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window, it was like, yo, what the you know what I'm saying? You just thought that would never happen ever. You know what I'm saying? And it I think that's what it was, man. I think because they felt so much like a team, they was a team as far as rappers, they was a team of producers. The fisherman hats, like I mean, look, they dressed alike on the damn album cover.
And let me say this.
Yeah.
Speaking of that kind of chemistry, they've both said on record that they tried to mimic Run DMC. So the same way Run and DMC used to finish each other rhymes and things of that nature, EPMD did that. You know what I'm saying? Eric and Paris making dollars. PMD might say a rhyme and Eric might finish his line. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. So there was so much teamwork. Like you said, it's kind of like looking at wrestling again. And when the Four Horsemen jumped on Ole Anderson and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you stumping Ole out. Tell the better stumping Ole out. And Orange standing there watching. You might get him a stump in too. So it's like, oh, you're breaking my heart. You know what I'm saying? And so EPMD breaking up, and again, think about this, Greg. They officially started separating when Crossover was on the radio,
Yeah.
and Crossover, they were making a mockery of mainstream hip hop. And ironically enough, Crossover ended up being their highest charting song.
Yeah.
And highest charting album. And it's a hardcore song. It's a hardcore video. It's in black and white. They playing third bass on there. They playing Color Me Bad. They talking shit to anybody who tried to dumb their music down to get record sales. That was not an attempt to be on the radio. It was a hardcore track. And it ended up resonating with fans.
Yeah, because when I think back to like in and around that time, a lot of rappers started to slowly, take shots at like R&B, because the industry was trying to label rap that also, which we saw in years later. So a lot of rappers were like taking little shots here and there, but this like EPMD made a full song about it. And I remember when I first heard it and it was called The Crossover, at first I was thinking basketball. I was like, what the fuck? They make a basketball record? But, when it came out and what they were talking about, I just remember I was proud. You know what I'm saying? I
No
was
doubt.
like, we you know what I'm saying, y'all ain't gonna take hip hop. It's gonna be what it is. And then to come to find out that, all these things was happening, man. So let's just get into the whole shebang, man. What happened? Why did EPMD break up, man? Why?
Hey, man, a lot of reasons, I guess. But let me say this real quick. Right before I get into that, I watched the crossover video again today. But it also made me think about the movie The Fire Heartbeats, one of my favorite movies. And
Yeah.
JT on The Fire Heartbeat said, man, crossover ain't nothing but a double cross. You know what I'm saying? When they showed the album cover and it had the white kids on there instead of the Far Heartbeats, it made me think about the crossover with EPMD because they were so kind of anti-selling out that hardcore sound of Long Island. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, when it comes to business, they say it's strictly business, unfinished business, business never personal, business as usual, whatever the case may be. Business is very touchy when you are young in the business. And I think that Eric Sermon felt like, man, I'm not getting the kind of money that I should be getting. Is Paris making more money than me? Well, Paris had other investments and he was better at business. And I think Eric Sermon kind of felt like, hey, this dude is cheating me out some money. But Paris on record on the Beef DVD and several other videos said that, hey, man, I split everything 50-50 with Eric. And Eric just, Eric will not agree to that. He's not saying that he got everything 50-50. He felt like he was getting slighted, kind of like, when Dr. Dre and Cuban was saying, hey, man, Eazy-E and Jerry Heller eating all this money up. You know what I'm saying? So it's still kind of like the EPM, the NWA thing, excuse me, because it still revolved around finances. And finances was very new in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So that at the end of the day, to me, felt like that's what broke EPMD up the first time. It was strictly money. And at the same time, when you got people spitting in your ear, hey, dude trying to play you, dude is robbing you, dude taking money out your mouth, whatever. So then it's kind of like, well, let me send a little message to this dude, allegedly. Hey, I'm gonna send some dudes to this dude crib and scare this guy. And that's why I said it's the first time in hip hop where most breakup is like, hey, we're not agreeing on some contracts or something like that. Okay, we're gonna dead this situation. EPMD situation is Eric Sermon allegedly sends guys to Paris Smith's house. Paris wasn't there. He gets there when people running out of his house. But what if that man was there with his wife and his children? It could have been a situation where somebody could have got killed. So
Yeah.
now we like these guys went to junior high school and high school together. Y'all couldn't sit down and work this out. Now we got some hip hop hadn't seen nothing like that before. Like NWA, for example, Ice Cube left. Cool. He originated the lynch mob. Okay. They ran into some Eazy-E friends at some event. They got into a little scuffle, whatever the case may be. That's it. But now we're talking about cats run up in your house with the ratchet.
Yeah.
So EPMD changed hip hop in regard to it's not just us talking in the interview. I'm sending dudes to your crib, man.
Yeah,
It got that
it's crazy,
serious.
man. And then this happened in and around 1993, and the Source magazine did an article about the breakup entitled "Out of Business." And honestly, I liken seeing that article because I remember seeing that article back then in the Source magazine. I liken that to when I woke up one Sunday morning, went to the bodega to go get like a bagel or whatever, and looked over and saw Mike Tyson gets knocked out by Buster Douglas in Japan on the newspaper. I was like, what the fuck? Like I was like my whole world was shattered. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because we've mentioned all of this teamwork on the mic, teamwork in production. I mean, they dressing alike, you know what I'm saying? They've known each other for years. And for it to be a money thing to the point where you got people going over to a dude's crib with guns, like it just seems odd, like you said, because it's like you got this close bond with this dude for years, and that's where you take it.
Hey,
Like,
but listen. What's even more ill than that? Okay, that Source magazine. I think it might have been April of '93 when it came out. What have you? So this is the thing, though. The actual break into Paris Smith house happened in winter 1991. But what happened was this.
wow.
After that happened, they brought Eric Sermon in for questioning. They brought some other affiliates in, and those affiliates said, hey, man, we got paid by Eric Sermon, you know what I'm saying, to go up in Paris' house, whatever. And, the charges and whatever case maybe end up being dropped. Eric didn't do any time. Eric was back and forth from New York to Atlanta at the time. He was doing some work with that little young group illegal and shit like that. So he was kind of staying preoccupied, and him and Paris wasn't really talking like that. But now the tour happened with the Hit Squad. So in 1992, they went on tour, and Paris Smith was in that same interview in the Source magazine talking about, hey, me and Eric wasn't really vibing at the time, but we still have these other acts. We didn't want to deprive them of all their albums coming out, and we're not promoting their albums. Paris still went on tour that year throughout 1992. You know what I'm saying? With Eric thinking that, man, this dude might have sent some people to my crib. So that's a real important thing for fans to know. They went on tour
Yeah.
after those guys ran up in his house. They officially broke up in early 1993. But 1992, they was touring together with tension on the road. They weren't vibing like that. You had, some of the other acts in the group not really talking to each other outside of being on stage together. We had never seen that like this in rap music, man.
That's madness to even think about, because you got to think about the chemistry that we talked about, and then now you have to do a tour with this dude. You're doing videos with this dude. I'm pretty sure you're doing promo and press, sitting next to each other, talking to the media about your album. And probably was crazier than it all, the album Business Never Personal. I mean, the title, you know what I'm saying? The
Right.
title, and the fact that, unlike A Tribe Called Quest, this was a really dope album that came out at a very intense time where these dudes are, not friends.
And it's ironic. It says business never personal, but it was damn sure personal.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it
Exactly.
was business, but it was personal. Because you sent some cats to my house, I could have one killed somebody or got killed. That's personal. Business is that we get our lawyers together, arbitration, look at some paperwork, and decide, hey, let's make sure these funds are being distributed appropriately. But that's business. You send some cats to my house, and I got to pull my gun out to go up in my house to make sure everybody's out my crib. That ain't business, dog. That's personal. If somebody came
Yeah.
to my house right now, it's personal. I got my wife and son here. So, it's very unfortunate the way that happened, man. And like you said, at the height of their career, they're on their fourth gold album back to back in the golden age of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And you break up with your biggest single actually on the radio. It's critically acclaimed, man. As I look at this track listing right here, I mean, it's just the headbanger with K Solo and Redman, the crossover, of course, like we said, just a bunch of other dope songs on the album, man. And that's when you say, we have to break up because it's so tense, it's so dangerous. And again, hip hop hadn't seen that kind of danger with groups breaking up, man. People broke up all the time. You know what I'm saying? And even to this day, when you think about rap in 2018, who has broken up and it been that type of tension? Outkast stopped making songs together to a degree, but they're still fine. Black Star, Most Definitely, Tyler Quality, they start making music, but it's fine. The Roots, they here and there making music together, and the Dog Pound had some tension at one point in the late 90s with Jazz and Corrupt. They even had little bars against each other, but it stayed there, so they were able to reconcile and come back together. The fact that EPMD was able to reconcile on more than one occasion, either one's a testament to their friendship or it's an inclination of we're gonna get money at all costs.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know. Prodigy, rest in peace, one of my favorite MCs. Him and Havoc had major problems at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it ever got to a point where, hey, Havoc or P gonna send somebody to the other dude's house. I mean, it's still monumental, man. When we think about the aggression, that was kind of like that energy, man. I don't know.
Yeah. And when we think about the momentum and the trajectory they were on as a group, releasing Strictly Business in 88 and Unfinished Business in 89, and then coming back in 1990 with Business as Usual, and then ending it all with 1992's Business never personal. And it was one of those things where it's kind of like you're going out on top, but you have this stain on your legacy because of all the stuff that was happening. Like you said, happening since like 91. Um, but let's talk about how they eventually got back together, and in 1997 they released the album Back in Business. Now, we know you were disappointed, Tone, when they broke up. How did you feel first when you heard they were getting back together, and then when you heard their music as a reunited group?
Well, you know what? One thing in life I learned is, time heals. Sometimes you need time to reflect, get over whatever type of thoughts and emotions you might have, and mature some. So, I do understand that reality. So I was like, okay, well, keep them to get back together. I was excited, because I'm like, man, it should have never got to that point. So we had 5 years between Business Never Personal and Back in Business, where Eric Sermon had his solo career, PMD did his thing. You had the Hit Squad, but then you had Eric Sermon form the Def Squad with Keith Murray and Red Man. So you had a chance to put all of these MCs back together. It's going to be stronger with the numbers. So I was kind of excited to see what happened, and I was excited to hear about them making some new music. And when I heard the joint, I was like, oh, EPMD is back.
Yeah,
The video was dope. We saw guest appearances from the Hit Squad, the Def Squad. You know what I'm saying? They felt like the vibe felt good. It felt like, man, they had really sincerely gotten over whatever situations they had dealt with in the past, man. So again, I felt good about it, and that's big for them to be able to get past some of that drama, So yeah, man,
yeah,
I was excited initially, and I thought the album had some hella cuts on it. Man, as I look at it, yeah, man, I mean they had some heat on there. It was critically acclaimed, man, for the most part, and uh, Richter Scale was dope. The joint was dope. I like Last Man Standing. I like Dungeon Master. You know what I'm saying? Like the beats was brolic. You know what I'm saying? Old school hip hop slang, real quick. Um, that song KIM had Redman and Keith Murray. So yeah, man, I think it felt good. I felt like if you're gonna have a comeback album, it definitely wasn't like when Tribe did the Love Movement. They definitely was not together doing that. But EPMD, you could tell that the vibe at that moment to me, DJ Scratch did some stuff on there. It felt authentic. I liked it.
yeah. I think for me, I felt a little bit different.
Okay.
When I heard they were getting back together, I was happy because I thought it was over. Especially when you spend years after that initial breakup thinking it might happen again, and then it doesn't. But it didn't happen until 97. But what did happen that kind of interfered with me really being into them getting back was the fact that we got Illmatic, we got Wu-Tang, we got Black Moon, we got Biggie, we got Tupac in and out of jail.
Right.
Like it a whole nother level, a whole another generation came in. You know what I'm saying? And if EPMD probably would have rocked under that radar, Redman was bigger than EPMD at that point. You
Oh,
know what I'm
no
saying?
question.
So it was one of those things where it was a whole nother world now. So when they got back together, even though they wasn't that old in the game and only 5 years had passed, it felt like something old was coming back to me. But
Mm.
like you said, when I heard Richter Scale, I was like, yeah, but them beats. And you know what I'm saying? And even like the Never Seen Before remix
Yeah,
and
no doubt. That was cold.
you know you know what I'm saying? Like when I heard them joints, I was like, this my group though. And for the most part, I own the album, I bought the album, but it's probably my least favorite, and I think that whole second renaissance, I never referred to that early 90s as the golden era. I believe that's like 86 to 88 or 86 to 89, something like that. I always look at that whole Illmatic, Wu-Tang, that whole stretch as more of like a renaissance or a resurgence of East Coast hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like when that change happened, the ears weren't there anymore for EPMD. A Tribe Called Quest had popped by then. You know what I'm saying? So it, like you said, Mobb Deep had popped by then. So it was kind of like it was a new playing field, and EPMD just felt like an older group. Because let's just put it in perspective. We said, EPMD was a part of that younger generation, that new generation that put them yes y'all dudes to sleep with Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, and such. Big Daddy Kane had been fell off by '97. Rakim wasn't really hitting the same way, you know what I'm saying? Because we kind of had Nas, and that was a whole new level. And and KRS-One was still getting his in, but it was more like singles here and there. So it was kind of like that generation took a step back. So for them to be like, we're back, it's kind of like, oh, well, that party's over. You know what I'm saying? But again, the album Back in Business wasn't bad. But they released more albums after that. Now, you tell me, have you heard these other albums? Because
Yeah,
I got
you
to
know
be
what?
honest.
Yeah, but as I look at it, after Back in Business, they had Out of Business in 1999, which we know at 1999, Jay-Z and DMX and everyone was destroying hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Then you had We Mean Business 2008. So you got 2008, you got Kanye West, Drake, and all this Lil Wayne destroying hip hop as far as like not destroying a bad way, but I'm talking about destroying the airways. So they were definitely done it just for their core fans at that moment. But as far as the Back in Business, yeah, 1997, you had Outkast had already released 2 albums already. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? So, not just Mobb Deep and all these guys, but Outkast had dropped. And we already know what they did for hip hop. We talked about that in another podcast a couple of weeks ago. So,
yeah,
to a degree, that 5 years, an entire new era happened. So, for a core fan like both of us, we were still happy, but you kind of look at them like elder statesmen at that point because
yeah,
they just absolutely can't compete with, even when you think about 1999, I mean, hell, Black Star came out in 1999. That type of duo. You know what I'm saying? You got Slum Village at some point coming, and after that, you're fighting against time. And like Ja Rule song, Race Against Time, you really can't beat the Race Against Time.
yeah. You
You
really
know,
can,
you know what
man.
I'm saying? But I was happy to see that, even today, the fact that EPMD can perform and tour and still eat, I always appreciate when our legends can perform like rock and roll guys. I mean, hell, when Led Zeppelin and damn Journey and the Rolling Stones, 90 years old, still selling out, coliseums. I want to see, EPMD, KRS, Public Enemy. I want to see them doing these world tours and eating off the culture because they've given so much of the culture. So if nothing else, I'm glad EPMD able to still perform, man, and still eat.
Yeah, and when you think about it again, we may have named uh albums from the recent past that maybe we didn't really get into. But if you take those 4 albums before the breakup,
Whew.
there's a hell of a show right there. There's a hell of a show you can attend and hear nothing but hits. Probably more than 2 hours worth of hits, just based off of those albums. And well, at least Eric Sermon has a couple of solo joints. But what do y'all think about EPMD, the breakup? Did you know all of that stuff about Eric Sermon sending goons to his house, and how long they were dealing with this while they were making their final album, while they were making videos and stuff like that? Leave your comments in the comment section below. We'd like to know what you think. Now we get to the point in the show where we recommend to you an album or mixtape or whatever it may be as far as music goes in hip hop or culture in general. And my recommendation for this week is Action Bronson's Mr. Wonderful. Now, let me preference that. I understand wholeheartedly. I was just like y'all when the Blue Chips mixtape came out and people were coming to me like, yo, this dude is all right. I was like, the cat sounds way too much like Ghostface. I'm not feeling him. That was literally, I did not want to hear anything from this dude whatsoever because I couldn't believe how much of a carbon copy he was of Ghostface's cadence, his flow, almost down to
Everything.
Ghostface type of subject matter. Like even the subject matter was something that Ghostface would say. And then for him to turn around and not really admit to being influenced by him, it kind of turned me off. Um, but that kind of really came to a head at the time that this came out. And I remember when I heard this one song called Acting Crazy. And when I heard that beat and I heard him rhyming over that, I was like, I don't care who he sounds like. This shit is hot. And what was crazy about it was the fact that at the time, I was kind of disappointed in the projects that Ghost was putting out because he was doing a lot of experimenting. And I felt like we were losing the Ghost that, the Ghostface albums that we were accustomed to buying like damn near every year. Um, and this album to me said that Action Bronson has his own personality. Because the more I listened to him, the less he sounds like Ghostface. You can hear the differences the more you listen to him. And even with the subject matter. Now, there is one thing in here that I was like, that's exhibit A when it comes to whether or not you're influenced by Wu-Tang, because he has this skit with this dude, some block dude singing some old Negro hymn or what, I don't know what he was singing. Shit was trash. But it just reminded me of what Wu-Tang does, where they have the old dudes from back in the days, sing and got that struggle singing in them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like some bum and shit that used to be in a doo-wop band or group back in the days, so he just come around and start singing some of that. But beyond that, what's dope about this album, it's 12 songs. Obviously, Alchemist is on here because him and Alchemist are like this, uh, as far as production. Uh, but what I really like about this album, why I recommend it, it's not just the rhymes. It's the simple fact that taking all these old rock samples from that 60s, 70s psychedelic, hippie era, you know what I'm saying, like the Doors and Queen, and taking all those different sounds of rock and sampling that for the majority of the album, it produced a lot of really hot ass beats. And it makes you wonder why at some point hip hop, the way they did with James Brown, the way they did with Parliament and George Clinton, why didn't they raid that section of music also for samples? Now, some people did for certain records, but he made a whole album of this. And I thought this album is the perfect recommendation to anybody who felt like I felt about Action Bronson. This to me says he's worthy of a listen. So, Tone, that's my recommendation. What's your recommendation for this week?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. My recommendation is 1997 album "Jewels" by OC.
Oh,
And I'm gonna tell you, people, if you're listening to this podcast, don't take my word for it. Get on YouTube or whatever you go to listen to music. Put in OC Jules, and you will hear a classic, traditional '90s hip hop album. 5 or 6 tracks produced by Primo, Buck Wild, Show and AG. You had guest appearances from Organized Confusion and Big L and Bumpy Knuckles, Freddie Fox. OC is a very underrated MC. The beats are hardcore, nice hooks. It's structured dope. The last track, Jules, is just an exercise in dope lyricism. Man, I can't say enough how much I love this album. And for people who don't know OC, you might know him or might know a song called Time's Up from his debut album Word Life that came out about 3 years prior. If you seen the movie 8 Mile, you'll hear the beat to Time's Up on that movie several times during a rap battle. Put in OC Time's Up on YouTube and check it out. Put in Word Life for OC. Put in Jules, like I said a few minutes ago, is my recommendation. Oh man, it's it's an amazing album. OC is very underrated, probably criminally underrated overall as an East Coast MC, man. And this album right here has everything for you. I think it was a kind of attempt maybe to go commercial compared to the Dash influence on word life, but I think it was a perfect blend still because of the type of production it had, man. Check that joint out, man. Favorite songs, real quick. The title track, Jules, a joint called War Games, and a joint called Chosen Ones, man. YouTube, check them out. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about OC Jules' album, people. Yeah, man, I think you'll like it a lot.
Yo, that is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Bro.
Like came out. I mean, I got the cassette right in the box over there. I got the digital copy. So for all y'all young dudes, like, yo, cassette, what the fuck? But like, I think I had like forgot about it. You know what I'm saying? Like for years, I forgot I had it, and I was going through garage, and I had all these tapes in there, and I was gonna transfer a lot of that stuff instead of just rebuying them. Um, and I remember I saw OC Jules in there, and I was like, yo, I forgot about this album, and I mean, I listened to it, and I mean, I haven't stopped since I found it, man. And again, like everything you said is absolutely true. OC is criminally slept on, very underappreciated in the hip hop game. The dude is still nice to this day. Just go look up Trophies. Go look up his last album, Same Sun, Same Moon. The dude is still dope. And also check out the homie Kills page or his channel, Will Make Beats for Food, where he does an interview with OC. But yeah, man, OC Jules, man, definitely a dope joint. Yo, that's gonna do it for us for that week. And I mean, not that week, that time in hip hop. Leave your comments in the comment section, hit that like button, and make sure to share it with people you know would enjoy this kind of hip hop content. Also, if you want some more information on hip hop and music in general, you can visit enterthedome.com. That's ENTERDADOME.com. Also, you can check out my podcast on SoundCloud or iTunes or wherever you get podcasts. It's called Hip Hop Now Podcast, where I provide you with the week's news and my perspective on a lot of the stories. Until next time, y'all, man, keep supporting hip hop, keep supporting hip hop content, and yo, peace, man. We'll be back. Word.
Peace.
Drop it on the random.